Your home should support your life, not drain it. I'm Katie Trudeau, and this is the Whole Home Living Podcast. Here, we talk about simple, plant-forward eating, realistic rhythms, and small systems that help your home work with you, not against you. No perfection, no pressure, just practical shifts that make everyday life feel lighter, calmer, and more nourishing. Let's get into today's episode. Fasting is trending again. You see it everywhere. Metabolic health podcasts, hormone optimization reels, longevity conversations, intermittent fasting, time-restricted eating, autophagy, insulin sensitivity. It's everywhere. And at the same time, the church is also inviting us to fast, except this time it's 40 days of fasting for Lent. On the surface, both involve, eating less or not eating, but they are not the same thing. And I've been thinking about that a lot, especially since today when I'm recording this, it is Ash Wednesday. So by the time you're listening to this, it'll be after Ash Wednesday. And last week after dinner, I was standing in the kitchen. We'd already cleaned up from dinner. The dishwasher was running and the house was starting to quiet down for the evening. And I found myself reaching into the pantry for chips. I love chips, salty tortilla chips. It's just so yummy, one of my weaknesses. And the thing is, I was reaching for these chips. I wasn't hungry. I just had eaten dinner and dinner was balanced. It had protein and fiber and all of the things I talk about. But it's the end of the day and I wanted a little extra salty yummies. That the idea of the crunchy chip sounded good. And, a nice little treat at the end of the day. And I paused and I thought, if this feels hard to give up, it might already have too much power. And that story, it's not really about the chips. It's about the attachment. And that's when I started thinking more intentionally about the difference between wellness fasting and Lenten fasting. Now, in the wellness world, fasting is usually about metabolic flexibility. The idea is that by spacing out meals or shortening your eating window, you give your body time to regulate insulin, potentially improve blood sugar control, and encourage fat utilization. And there is research suggesting that certain forms of time-restricted eating can improve metabolic markers for some people. For example, you don't want to be eating a super heavy meal at 11 p.m. and then immediately fall asleep. Some time for your body to digest and not have to be constantly digesting food. These kind of windows can simplify your eating patterns. And it can also help reduce mindless grazing. So if after dinner, I'm not going to eat past this time, it kind of helps you steer clear of that endless munchies while you watch TV or read at night. Now, this isn't inherently bad. For some people and in certain seasons, fasting can be a useful tool. But the goal of it is optimization, longevity, hormone balance, body composition, performance. Your body becomes the project. And sometimes, not always, but sometimes, fasting can be a way to exert control. Now, this is not any judgment. It's just a comment, just something I noticed, that it could be a way to, for example, control your snacking. If you set a window and say, I'm only going to eat between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m., then that's controlling, snacking outside of that window. Now, on the other hand, Lenten fasting looks similar on the surface. We abstain, we simplify, we limit, but the goal is dramatically different. The church is not asking you to fast to improve insulin sensitivity. It's asking you to fast so you can confront attachment, so we can experience dependence, so we can practice surrender. Christ fasted in the desert for 40 days, not because he was trying to optimize his metabolism, but because he was preparing for mission. He was resisting temptation and he was fully aligning with the Father. Catholic fasting is relational. So it is not primarily about what happens to your body. It's about what happens to your heart. So when you fast during Lent from whether it's chocolate or if you're giving up meat on Fridays, that's not really about what's happening in your body. It's really what's happening to your heart. And the distinction matters. So let's go back to my story when I'm telling you about I'm sneaking all these tortilla chips out of the pantry while I'm also cleaning up dinner. When I reached for those chips, I could have framed it in a wellness way. I could say, oh, I shouldn't eat. I just ate dinner. I need better discipline. I need to tighten my eating window. I could have said all of that. But Lent asks a different question. Am I looking for a small comfort because the day felt long? Wellness fasting says control the behavior. Lenten fasting says examine the attachment. That's gentler. It sounds very gentle, but it is far deeper. Now, let's shape this with the H.E.A.R.T method. You listened to that a few episodes ago. Let's tie this all together. So I mentioned that H stands for holistic living. Now, if I trace back to that day and if I look and I say, oh, I just hadn't slept enough. I had said yes to many things. I was tired. I had carried more mental load than I admitted. Maybe what I needed wasn't chips or that little salty crunch. Maybe what I needed was rest. And holistic living recognizes that health is more than just food timing. It's sleep, stress, margin, relationships. Chronic stress affects inflammation and blood pressure. And then poor sleep disrupts those hunger hormones. And then on top of that, overcommitment can make every single small decision seem so much harder. So sometimes the most meaningful fast during Lent isn't a fast from food at all. It's a fast from hurrying. It's a fast from trying to prove yourself. It's a fast from the belief that productivity equals your worth. Because, spoiler alert, it does not. Lent begins with ashes and the reminder that we are dust, and to dust we shall return. And that is not to shame us. It is to ground us. Our bodies are finite, but our souls are not. We are dependent, but we are loved. And that shifts everything. Now, to tie in E, because at the same time, physiology does matter. Now let's back to my chip example. If I had skipped protein earlier in the day, or if I had undereaten, if my blood sugar was unstable, that could have been part of the picture too. That's part of the empowered nutrition. It holds that tension. So instead of asking, am I allowed to have this? The E in the H.E.A.R.T method asks, is my body actually nourished? Maybe what I actually needed was some electrolytes. And sometimes fasting reveals that we've been physically under fueling. Sometimes it reveals that we're using food to regulate stress. Both can be true. Wellness fasting focuses on timing. Lenten fasting focuses on attachment. They are not opposed, but they are also not identical. Now let's talk about A, active lifestyle. Movement is similar. In the wellness world, movement is often tied to optimization, performance metrics, calorie burn, progress tracking. I am guilty of that. I go for a run and I immediately pull up my Garmin and I look at all the data. What did I do? How fast did I run? What was my max speed? How many calories did I burn? What percentage of my run was in zone 2? Usually not a lot. Trying to get it more in zone 2. That's a topic for another day. But my point is, I'm trying to optimize and I'm looking at all the numbers. But in Lent, bodily discipline is meant to support interior freedom. So sometimes what I need after dinner isn't something crunchy and salty. Maybe it's a walk, or maybe earlier in the day, I needed sunlight. We are an under-sunlighted people in North America right now. We need sun. At least where I am, my body cannot wait for sunlight to come back. It's been a dark winter. Maybe twice a week, I need more strength training to feel more capable and steady. All of this is tied together. Our faith is embodied. Christ entered the desert physically, so we already know that caring for the body matters. God made our body. It's a temple of the Holy Spirit. Your body matters. You only get one body, and you have to take care of it. We already know that. But your body is not your ultimate project. It's integrated And that leads to R, resilient mindset. This is where we talk about mind and spirit. It's part of that whole outlook. And this is where it becomes the clearest for me. Resilience is not white knuckling a fast perfectly for 40 days or trying to get through, and maybe you've given up chocolate and you're trying to just make it through 40 days without chocolate. It's not about turning those chips I ate into a moral failure either. Now, research shows that chronic self-criticism elevates stress hormones and makes sustainable change harder. Self-compassion and psychological flexibility are associated with better long-term outcomes. So, we don't want to go down that path where we're adding stress hormones with this. That's not the point. But beyond psychology, there is identity. And if my worth depends on executing the perfect fast, then every small slip feels catastrophic. And that doesn't feel good. But Lent reminds me that my worth is not earned by my discipline. It's not earned by anything I do. It's received. I receive worth from the Creator. And Ash Wednesday grounds us in dependence. The cross shows us that transformation comes through surrender, not self-perfection. So when I slip and I eat the chips, resilience doesn't say you failed. It says return. We can bring that idea through our whole Lent. Return to prayer, return to your daily rhythms, return to truth. Nothing dramatic, just a steady return. And that is very different from control. So now let's talk about T, transform your home. Wellness fasting often focuses inward on the individual body. Lenten fasting expands outward. Almsgiving, charity, shared meals, communal worship. The church fasts together. In our home, the more meaningful shifts haven't been a really dramatic dietary rule. They've been environmental. Phones away at dinner, clearing the table, lighting a candle, opening windows when we can. The deeper fast might not be chips. The deeper fast might be fasting from distraction, from noise, from isolation. That's a big one. Fast from isolation. Blue Zone's research shows that strong social connections is one of the most protective factors for longevity. The church has practiced that rhythm for centuries through communal fasting and feasting together. So maybe the fast isn't just from food. Maybe it's toward presence. So this Lent, it's okay to appreciate the science behind fasting. Metabolic health matters, insulin sensitivity matters, caring for your body absolutely 100% matters. But ask a deeper question. Are you fasting to control your body, or are you fasting to free your heart? Lent doesn't end in restraint, it ends in resurrection. We simplify so joy has room. That's hygge right there, joy. We let go so we can receive. And health. Real lasting health grows not from control, but from steady reorientation and return through heart. If today's episode was helpful, take a moment to share it with someone who could use a little more ease around food and home. You can also leave a review. It helps more families find whole home living. For simple resources, practical tools, and upcoming workshops, visit wholehomeliving365.com. And remember, eating well doesn't require perfection. It just needs a system that works with your life. I'm Katie Trudeau. See you next time.